Our story this week is from Parker McCoy, who you'll find on Substack. And here's Doorbell Camera Delirium. Brooks grabbed a box of books from the trunk of his car and then closed the trunk and hoofed across the parking lot of the Shady Weeds apartment complex on up the stairs. The books didn't seem as heavy as he thought they would, which was odd since he always considered Dostoevsky to be heavy stuff. He made it to the second floor of his building and marched toward the beige door he'd be opening and closing for the next year, according to his lease. He inserted his key into the lock. Then he paused. He blinked and turned. The door to the apartment across from his own was cracked open, maybe an inch or two. The inside of the place was shadowy, but fading sunlight reflected off the eyeball. Brooks watched. The door eased back toward the frame a half-inch, maybe. A big 50-ish guy in sweats bounded up the stairs and onto the second story and gave a friendly nod to Brooks. The guy looked like he coached high school football. Brooks nodded back. The coach guy slapped the door of the peeking man across from Brooks and said, "Leave him alone, Miles." The coach hustled down the hall. Miles closed the door finally. Brooks got inside and unpacked a few books. Then he dined on a ham sandwich with a little mayonnaise and some pretzel sticks. He watched a few episodes of Reacher and flexed his arms a few times and grunted his way through the front door, back down the stairs to his car, where he retrieved a box of records and his doorbell camera. He returned inside his new place and hooked up the doorbell camera, despite a few hitches. He synced it up to his phone. If anyone tried to pull anything on him, his phone would alert him. He sat back down and fired up another episode of Reacher. Damn, I can't do this to her. He paused Reacher and tromped back downstairs to his car. He removed his framed poster of Scarlett Johansson from the back seat and held it under the parking lot light and admired it. The 50-ish coach passed by him. "Now we're talking." "Yes, ha ha. I'm headed down to the tavern for a few cold ones. Want a ride?" Brooks pursed his lips. "No, I don't guess so. Thanks for the invite, though." The coach hopped into his truck. "You bet, and stay away from Miles." Brooks chuckled and waved. He got back up the stairs and opened his door. He turned back. The apartment door across the hall was cracked open again. Miles most likely stood in the shadows. Brooks grinned and slid Miss Johansson inside and then stepped over to Miles' door and proffered his hand and said, "Hey, man, I'm Brooks." The door creaked closer to closed, but remained a bit open. Brooks kept the hand out there and motioned for Miles to accept it. The door creaked a little more open. Brooks smiled. A finger protruded through the crack. Brooks shrugged and shook the finger. The finger disappeared in shadows. Brooks said, "Okay, see you around." "You better be careful." "Oh, yeah? Why is that?" The door creaked halfway open. Miles stepped forward into the light, but remained in his doorway. He stood a great deal shorter than Brooks' 6-foot 2-inch frame. He must have weighed 140 pounds, dripping wet. He wore a black felt jacket and a black t-shirt and a black beaded bracelet on his wrist. His eyes bulged like he'd seen a ghost, or like he was looking at one now, like Brooks himself was a ghost. "I don't remember dying today." Miles swallowed. "This place, it's dangerous." Brooks scanned the area. "It doesn't seem so bad." "But it is. I can show you." That's okay, man." Miles stepped into the night. "I mean, I can show you here on my phone." Brooks crossed his arms. Miles looked east and then west, then removed his cell phone from his jacket pocket with trembling hands and tapped on the screen a few times. Then he hunkered down and hit a button on the phone and turned it to where it faced Brooks. A video popped up that showed the hallways of an apartment complex. It was this complex, and it was in black and white. A man appeared in the video. It was a doorbell camera video. The man on the video was thin and shaky and wore a ghost-like mask with the eyes covered by black holes. The ghost looked around and reached into a dark jacket pocket. He spotted the doorbell camera and paused. Then he leaned his ghost face into it, then poked it with a gloved hand. He looked around and then disappeared from view. Brooks said, "Wow, that was pretty creepy, Miles. Did you ever find out who it was? What they were up to?" Miles drew the phone back and stepped into his apartment, out of the light. "I can show you more inside here, in my apartment. I hate standing out here, vulnerable." Brooks reached into his pockets. "Okay, I can do that, but I have pepper spray, and if you try anything, you'll get a nice allergy attack." "Oh, I don't want that. Come on in, please, out of the danger." Brooks entered the apartment and motioned for Miles to go on in. Miles did so and disappeared around the corner. Brooks closed the door behind himself and eased into the kitchen while gripping the pepper spray can in his pocket. Miles reappeared. "We can just do it here. I don't want you to be frightened." The place was dimly lit, but in a cool way, given the silver steel lamps and gray and white rugs and a whole kind of cool minimalist feel. "I could sit in here and read some Dostoevsky." Miles pulled up another video on his phone. Then he moved into the living room and picked up a mug that had an M printed on it. He headed back over to the kitchen. He dragged his right foot when he walked, but the dragging made no noise on the soft gray carpet. He stared at the phone. Brooks hit the play button. This was another doorbell camera, black and white video. Something moved at the bottom of the camera's vision. It appeared to be the top of something like a hat on a very short person, maybe a child. It moved from left to right. Then it disappeared. Brooks rubbed the back of his neck. A giant eyeball took up the entire screen. He jerked. The eye stared back at him. What the? The giant eye leaned into the camera and tilted. It was a mask, an eyeball mask. It remained there, peering into the camera and into Brooks' soul. Then it disappeared. The video ended. Brooks rubbed his chest. "Wow, Miles, that one was creepy." Miles took the phone. "Yes, this place is filled with crazies." He tapped on his phone a few times. "This one happened just a week ago. Brace yourself." He handed the phone back over. Brooks swallowed and hit play. This one showed the doorbell camera, black and white footage again. The time at the bottom corner of the screen indicated 3:07 a.m. A hooded figure popped into view. It looked like some old monk with a hood covering the entire face. Just a hood with a void for a face. The thing stood there, staring into the camera as if it had eyes. Then it shifted away out of sight. And then it raced back by the way it came. The video ended. Brooks handed the phone back. "Man, it's not even close to Halloween. What kind of creeps come around dressed like that?" Miles shook. "I can't believe the things my camera picks up. Do you have a doorbell camera?" "I do. I'm not sure I want to use it now." Miles rubbed his forehead. "I've lived in lots of apartments, but I've never seen the type of things I see here. I don't sleep very much, and then I work from home during the day. Brooks patted Miles' shoulder. "Well, take it easy. It's not worth giving yourself a heart attack. Are you going to move when your lease is up?" "I think I will, but I don't know. You seem trustworthy. Maybe I can tough it out here with you. We can tough it out together." He stepped over to the refrigerator and pulled a bottled water out and offered one to Brooks. Brooks declined. Miles stepped back over to him, dragging his right leg again. Brooks rubbed his chin. Then he said, "Can I see the videos again?" Miles looked at him like his own head was one giant eyeball. Brooks shrugged. "I just want to take a look at something. I think it might help." Miles tapped on his phone and handed it over. Brooks watched each video again, often pausing and running small bits of the videos back and replaying them. He handed the phone back. Miles accepted it and watched him. He grinned and said, "This is you." Miles stared at him. Brooks watched him. Miles' mouth curved into a grin for a split second. It was hard to catch. Miles was crafty. Brooks pointed to the phone. In the first video, the creep in the ghost mask is wearing a black beaded bracelet just like yours. Miles examined his own bracelet. Then he watched Brooks. Brooks pointed to the phone again. "And on the last video, the creep in the cloak drags his right foot just like you do." Miles stood open-mouthed. Brooks shook his head. "Damn, Miles, you just trying to creep me out? What kind of nut makes videos of himself with his own doorbell camera? You didn't think I would notice?" Brooks pulled out his pepper spray. Miles hunkered down. "Oh, no, please." Brooks said, "The only nut in this building is you, Miles. See you around. Or, well, I hope I don't." Brooks stormed out of Miles' apartment and returned to his own. He locked the door and checked it twice. Then he paced around his place for a while. He would be taking that coach guy up on the next beer offer for sure. At least someone here seemed like they had a decent head on their shoulders. He paced around for a while, glancing at his door and at his phone in case Miles tried to creep him out at his own door. A few hours passed. Nothing happened. So Brooks yawned himself back toward his new bedroom and lay down. Brooks woke up. He smacked his lips and rubbed his eyes. The darkness remained at the corners of his blind-covered window. His phone buzzed. He sighed and checked it, hoping Scarlett Johansson finally realized that he was the man for her. Instead, his screen showed footage of a guy creeping outside his front door via his doorbell camera. He sat up in bed and placed his feet on the floor. The black and white footage showed a guy dressed in a jumpsuit and wearing a clown mask, prodding the camera with his finger and then holding up that same finger to his clown mouth. That damn Miles. Brooks got up and pulled his jeans on and pulled the pepper spray from the pocket and stormed through his own apartment. He tossed open the door and said, "I warned you, Miles, now you're going to." The clown pulled a pistol from his jacket and shoved the muzzle into Brooks' face. Brooks held up his hands. "Now, wait a minute. This is too far, Miles. You can't bring a gun into—" The clown brought the pistol down on Brooks' shoulder. The blow caused pain to burst deep inside. Brooks grabbed his shoulder and dropped to his knees. The clown kicked his chest. He fell onto his back. The breath shot out of him. The clown turned him onto his belly and wrapped something around his wrists and ankles. Tape, maybe? Brooks heaved some breath into himself. "You can't do this, Miles." The clown kicked his ribs. Then he turned on a flashlight and scavenged through the living room. He picked up the iPad and laptop and TV and placed them in a pile by the door. He scavenged into the hall and on back to the bedroom. He didn't have that dragging thing with his right leg. It had to be Miles, but it sure didn't act like him. There was no hesitation and no second thoughts. His thoughts were as deliberate as a dog treeing a raccoon. The clown returned up front. His flashlight illuminated Brooks' wallet in his gloved hand. He placed a piece of tape over Brooks' mouth. Then he picked up his pile of electronics by the door and placed them into a garbage bag and sealed it up. Then he eased himself out the door and gently shut it behind himself. Brooks twisted against the tape on his wrists. If only someone could help. Miles? Coach Guy? Scarlet? Brooks sat in his lone chair in the living room. The lights were now on, which didn't matter as much since sunlight poured through the window here at 7 in the morning. He'd required 6 hours to get the tape loose enough. The police came right over, but there wasn't a lot to go on. The officer in charge told him that these things happened a lot in this area, especially lately. Brooks did tell him about Miles across the hall. The officer knocked on the door, and a frightened Miles answered. They searched his place, but found nothing. Just before they closed the door, Miles watched Brooks, shaking with what looked like sympathy in his eyes. The officer shook his head and said, "You've reported your credit card stolen?" Brooks nodded. "Well, hopefully he hasn't ran up too many charges yet. He most likely hit up a bunch of places for gift cards." He handed Brooks a card and told him to contact him if he thought of anything else. Brooks sank into his chair. A week later, Miles left his apartment around lunchtime. He checked both ways, of course, and crept down to his mailbox. "Hey, man!" Miles jumped and turned. Brooks smiled and proffered his hand. Miles swallowed and extended his finger. Brooks shook it and said, "Hey, listen, Miles, I owe you an apology, man. I know it wasn't you that robbed me, and you were right. The cops said that this place gets hit a lot." Miles shook. "It's a dangerous place. Do you think you will get any of your property back?" "I really doubt it. My parents were super pissed. In fact, I'm breaking my lease and moving across town. It's supposed to be safer over there." "I've heard it is. Oh, and I know I dragged my leg like the one thief, but I didn't do that before I saw that footage of him doing it. I don't know why I started doing it. PTSD or Stockholm Syndrome?" Brooks shrugged. "That could be. And I've seen a lot of guys wearing the same type of bracelet like you wear. It was just all a big misunderstanding. Anyway, I'm out at the end of the week. Let's have dinner sometime before I go." "Oh, I can have pizza delivered. I am not one to go out." "That's an understatement. Okay, see you around. For a while." Miles grinned and then gathered his mail and headed back upstairs into his apartment. He locked the door and then hunkered down on the floor of his living room and dragged himself to the sofa. He dropped a wad of bills and solicitations onto the floor and then studied the brown, unmarked envelope. He swallowed and opened it. $220 slid out along with a note that read, "Good work. I added a bonus. Let me know when you get another one. My number's the same." Thanks for listening. I'm Kris Kepler, and I hope you enjoyed listening to these stories as much as I enjoyed narrating them. I'd love for more people to hear these wonderful stories, so please share and tell your friends.